What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the TEC show. So today we're going to show you Senator Kennedy, and I'm going to get right to this video. He's going to be talking about the situation right now when it comes to the midterm elections. So 2026 midterm elections just right around the corner. And I've stated this in all my videos. When we start focusing on the 2026 midterm election, it's about the economy, it's about affordability, and it's about the job approval of the president, because this will be a referendum on the president. If the president is not doing well, then guess what? The voters are going to come out and they're going to vote against the party that president belongs to. And so the Republican Party. So they will vote against the Republican Party. So now we're hearing Republicans out there saying the exact same thing. Look, we need to have a message. We need to admit that things aren't good for the American people, and we need to move forward accordingly and try to help the American people. So I'm going to show you guys this clip. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Do you think that the Justice Department needs to just pull this Jerome Powell subpoena to try to get the show on the road and address some of those affordability concerns that are kind of flashing warning lights for the midterms?
Well, look, I think that poll was correct.
Okay.
When moms and dads lie to have them sleep at night and they can't, they're not lying there, as the Democrats think, worrying about whether a man can breastfeed. They're worried about the cost of living. They're tired of having to sell blood plasma to go to the grocery store. They're tired of the increases in their housing costs and their insurance. I mean, I could go on and on. And it needs to be addressed. And I've encouraged the president to address it. And it's not enough to tell the American people not to believe their own lying checkbooks. They know about their personal finances. Is the president responsible for the remaining inflation? No, he helped get inflation down from 9% to roughly 3%.
Okay, we're going to come back to that 9% to 3% because that's not true what he's saying right there.
But it's still not enough. And every waking hour in Congress, and I've told Senator Thune this, my good friend, should be spent on trying to figure out what ways to increase wages and reduce prices, and we can do it.
Are you worried about losing?
And so there was Senator Kennedy talking about affordability, saying the president needs to talk more about affordability. Now, one thing that he did say was incorrect, and I've heard other politicians saying the same thing. The problem right now is when you have a politician out there lying, people don't fact check them. This interviewer should have fact checked him and said, no, that's not correct. It wasn't at 9% when President Trump came in, because that's the way he made it sound. He said President Trump helped bring it down from 9% to 3%. Well, we can go ahead and take a look and see where inflation was. So looking at inflation when President Trump came into office, this is the end. So we have, let's just say here, January 2025. Inflation was at what? 3%. And what did Senator Kennedy say? He said he brought it down to 3%. So how do you bring it down to 3% if it was already at 3% when you started? And we'll see where it went. So it went from 3%, and then in February it went down to 2.8%. Then it went down to 2.4%, went down to 2.3%. That's good. Look, inflation is going down. But guess what happened? It started going back up. In May, it went up to 2.4%. In June, it was at 2.7%. In July, it was at 2.7%. In August, it was at 2.9%. And then guess what? In September, it went back up to 3%. And then we had a government shutdown, so we didn't get the information here. And then we saw November numbers coming out at 2.7%. And then December numbers coming out at 2.7%, where economists are looking at these last 2 months and they're saying, I don't know. I don't know if it's 2.7% because we didn't get the information from October. And so we're going to have to see. It's going to take a little bit of time to see where inflation is going. Is it going up or is it going back down? And so those are the facts. And Senator Kennedy's out there making it sound like, no, it was at 9% and President Trump helped bring it down to 3%. Well, President Trump didn't help bring it down to 3%. Guess who did help bring it down to 3%? President Biden. So if you look, we'll go back 5 years. And so the 9% that he's talking about, this 9.1%, this was in June of 2022. And we know back in 2021, we were looking at that pandemic. All over the world, we saw inflation because we were basically printing money, sending out stimulus checks, sending out PPP funding. With PPP funding, pretty much any business could qualify for PPP funding. And you had people that didn't even have businesses qualifying for PPP funding. And so when we saw all of that money just being pushed into our economy, as well as we had supply chain issues, yes, we're going to see inflation, and that's what happened. So we started to see that inflation. It peaked out in June of 2022 at 9.1%. And then guess what happened? It started coming down, and we just moved through. And by the time we got to 2023, we started to see it at, 6.4%. And then fast forward, in July of 2023, it was at 3.2%. And then we saw it stabilize at around that, 3.1%, 3.4%, 3.1%. And then when we get all the way to 2025, January of 2025, it was at 3%. Okay. And then if you want to look at December of 2024, it was at 2.9%. And so Biden is the one that actually got this down to 3%. So that 3% that Senator Kennedy was talking about, it went from 9% down to 3%. Guess what? That was during Biden. But the reason why people were upset with Biden is because it went up in the first place. It got up to that 9%. But President Trump had no say in bringing it down to that 3%. And so if you want to say anything about President Trump and inflation, he brought it from 3% down to 2.7%, and we're still waiting for January. Once January comes out, it might go back up to 3%. So when we get the inflation numbers for January, we might see that inflation really hasn't moved very much at all. But the fact that you have Republican senators out there, now Senator Kennedy, he's not running for re-election until 2028, but Senator Kennedy doesn't want Republicans to lose control of the Senate, and now it's pretty much in play. Okay, before it was pretty much impossible for Democrats to be able to take back control of the Senate. But now, just looking at the different candidates that we have running in some of these different states, Democrats have a good opportunity of taking back the Senate. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about. Right now, you have Democrats and independents at 47. You have Republicans at 53. And so when we look at this map, I see some states right now that will probably go blue just based on the candidates that are running. Looking at some of the latest polling, we have a pretty good idea that we're looking at Georgia, for instance. Georgia is blue right now, but it's considered a toss-up. Let me put the toss-ups in first, and then we'll take a look at it. So I think Georgia's a toss-up right now. I think North Carolina is a toss-up. I think Maine is a toss-up. Michigan is a toss-up. And at this point, I think Alaska is a toss-up. And so I think we have 5 states right now that are toss-ups, okay? Or you can even say Alaska might lean a little red, but Peltola, I think, is going to be, this is going to be a very close race, and Peltola has a very good chance of winning. And so if we're looking at, with the toss-ups, you have Democrats at 45, Republicans at 50. Now, Democrats right now, Jon Ossoff, he's doing okay in Georgia, and it looks like he might be able to pull it out. We look at some of the latest polling. So let's say Democrats pull off Georgia. North Carolina, Roy Cooper, doing pretty good in North Carolina. He's doing good on fundraising. He's looking good in the polls. He has a very good shot at winning in North Carolina. So let's go ahead and say that's blue. And in Maine, you have Plattner and Mills. They're going to be running against each other. They're both Democrats. And so whoever comes out on top, they're going to be running against Susan Collins. And when you poll Plattner and Mills against Collins, they both either they're ahead of Collins or they're neck and neck. It's a tie. And so that's not good for an incumbent. If an incumbent is tied with you, that is a problem, because that incumbent should have an advantage just because she's an incumbent. And so let's say the Democrat wins in Maine, and then in Michigan, it'll be a close race, but I think that Democrats will be able to pull it out in Michigan as well. So now we would be looking at Democrats at 49, Republicans at 50. We have one more state on the board that is a toss-up. That's Alaska. So if we're looking at Alaska, Peltola, right now, looking at the polling, Peltola is ahead. Okay, I haven't seen one poll where Peltola is behind. And so let's say Peltola pulls it off in Alaska. Now we're at 50-50. So Democrats 50, Democrats independent 50, and then you have Republicans at 50. Now, Democrats still need to win one more state, because if it's a tie, it goes to the vice president. The vice president's a Republican. And so Republicans would still control the Senate. But Democrats would have to look for another seat. And Democrats have possibilities there in Ohio, in Iowa, in Texas. These are some states that I think could go to a Democrat. And I think the best opportunity, and I've said this over and over, the best opportunity is going to be Ohio. If Sherrod Brown can win in Ohio, then Democrats would take back control of the Senate. And so it's not going to be easy for Democrats to take back control of the Senate, but it's very possible now. Whereas before, I would say 3 months ago, it wasn't even possible because we didn't know Peltola was going to be running. We didn't really know what was going to happen with Sherrod Brown, how he was going to look. We didn't know what the polls were going to be showing us in North Carolina. We didn't know what the polls were going to be showing us in Maine. And so we have some of these different states where Republicans had a better advantage than they do now. And so we're going to have to see how this all plays out. But a lot of this is coming down to President Trump and what President Trump is doing. And these politicians realize, these Republicans that are running, they realize they have to run on President Trump's record. And if President Trump makes mistakes, then guess what? The people running on the Republican ticket are going to suffer as a result of that. And so I want to know what you guys think about all this. Do you think that Republicans are going to struggle in the 2026 midterms in the Senate? Do you think Republicans will lose control of the Senate in 2026? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. And remember, stay informed, stay engaged, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. So that's all we have for this video. Make sure if you guys want to send me an email, you can do that, david@thetecshow.com. Like the video, subscribe for more, and check out these videos over here for some more great content. Talk to you later. Bye.